Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, one person is dead and another is injured after two separate shootings in Boyle County. And the president's son was back in a Delaware courtroom today as jury deliberations begin in his federal gun trial.
Temperatures today were in the 70s. We'll see one more day of that, and then the warming trend begins. We'll talk about that coming up in the First Alert forecast in a few minutes.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Police in a central Kentucky town are looking to see if there's a connection to two shootings that happened early yesterday morning. Both happened in Danville. Both victims were shot in their cars. One died and another was treated and released. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more about what happened and the violence and the victims.
Calls of a shooting were met at first with confusion when police arrived on Dillahay Street around 2 o'clock Sunday morning.
Not a lot of details came forth. There was some speculation that a shot had been fired and somebody may have been shot.
They ended up finding 37-year-old Justin Gray in another part of town. He had been shot and was treated for a gunshot wound to the abdomen. Just before 4 Sunday morning, police were then called to 5th Street where they found a pickup truck that had crashed into a home. The driver, 43-year-old Maurice Stitt, had been shot.
We know at least one shooter, and it almost appears to us maybe this was an ambush style. He encountered a shooter. They began shooting at him while he was inside his vehicle. He tried to flee in reverse, obviously lost control because he had been hit by multiple rounds.
And now the big question is, are both of these shootings related? Are they looking for one shooter or multiple shooters? What exactly is the motive, and are those related as well? As of now, police have not labeled a suspect or persons of interest.
Randomness of it, I think we could probably take that out of the equation right now because it appears that both these individuals seem to have been targeted.
Police say in any case there is a bad actor out there, and they encourage people to come forward with tips or any home surveillance video that they may have. In Boyle County, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
Police say the home that Stitt's truck crashed into after the shooting had minor damage. In Carter County, police are searching for a man considered to be armed and dangerous. Grayson police say Christopher Carpenter is wanted in connection to an officer-related shooting. Carpenter has also been accused of running over a police officer with his car. The incident occurred this morning when officers say they tried to pull Carpenter over during a traffic stop. One officer was injured during the incident but has since been released from the hospital. Police in Akron, Ohio now say 28 people were wounded in a mass shooting at a birthday party back on June 2nd. The people hit by gunfire included a man who was killed. Earlier today, the city's police chief gave some information on the latest victim identified.
We have found that we now have a 28th victim involved in the shooting. 36-year-old female. She was grazed 3 times in the arm. She initially went to the hospital, but her injuries were not severe enough to be seen right away and was referred somewhere else, and she did not seek additional medical treatment.
Police earlier said the party had at least 200 people in attendance. No arrests have been made. One person is dead and another injured after a plane crash in Michigan. According to the FAA, the crash happened near the Ann Arbor Municipal Airport a little after 1 o'clock this afternoon. 2 people were on the plane at the time of the crash. The person that was injured was flown to the University of Michigan Hospital. An investigation is being led by the National Transportation Safety Board.
Well, we're seeing a mixture of sun and clouds across the area. Temperatures right now are in the 70s, below normal for this time of year. And I hope you enjoy that stretch of below normal temperatures because there's a big change coming by the end of the week. Outside right now, we're seeing temperatures in the 70s across the area. 73 in Pikeville, 66 in Wise, as well as Grundy, 77 in Jonesville, 76 Harlan, London. Good evening to you guys. You're at 73 degrees, 75 in Monticello. All is quiet on live pinpoint Doppler radar. This is going to get a break for at least the next several days as high pressure is in control. So if you have plans tonight, Look at this. Temperatures will be in the 70s by the 8 o'clock hour, 60s by the 10 o'clock hour, upper 50s and low 60s with calm wind by midnight. Now, coming up in the first alert forecast, Father's Day is this weekend, and I'll have that forecast in a few minutes. Steve, over to you.
All right, Eric, thank you. Hunter Biden's fate is now in the hands of a Delaware jury. Both sides made their last attempts to sway opinions in closing arguments earlier today. CBS's Jared Hill has the latest from New York.
Will you testify?
The answer to that question was no. Over 6 days, the jury heard testimony from a parade of witnesses, including members of the Biden family, but not Hunter Biden himself.
He would subject himself to, I think, very painful cross-examination. You can't hold it against somebody that they're exercising the right not to testify.
Biden's wife, Melissa, First Lady Jill Biden, and other relatives and friends packed the rows behind Hunter Biden in the courtroom Monday. In closing arguments, the prosecution told jurors the only evidence in the case is what came from the witness stand, not the people in the gallery. The president's son has pleaded not guilty to 3 felony charges stemming from buying a gun in 2018. Prosecutors say he lied on the firearms purchase form when he indicated he was not a user of or addicted to illegal drugs. Earlier in the trial, they had jurors listen to Hunter Biden's audiobook narration, where he refers to himself as an addict. But the defense argues previous addiction doesn't mean it was ongoing or occurring at the time of the gun purchase.
Both sides, I think, acknowledge that it'd be very difficult to have a jury where you don't have anybody who's related to or knows somebody who struggled with addiction.
It's not clear if sympathies are enough to sway the 12-member panel. Hunter Biden's defense was not allowed to pursue a Second Amendment argument, but legal experts say that could happen on appeal if Biden is convicted. Jared Hill, CBS News.
And we understand the jury has gone home for the day without reaching a verdict. Convictions on these counts potentially carry both prison time and up to hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. A star witness who testified about bribing New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez was back on the stand today. Jose Uribe, an insurance broker, is the star witness for the government in its bid to win a conviction against the senator. Uribe told jurors last week that he bought Menendez's wife, Nadine Menendez, a new Mercedes-Benz convertible in exchange for the senator's power and influence. Uribe pleaded guilty in March and agreed to cooperate with prosecutors. Donald Trump has formally requested oral arguments in his bid to disqualify the top prosecutor in his Georgia election interference case. This comes as the Georgia Court of Appeals considers Trump's request to have Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis taken off the case for reported misconduct. The Superior Court judge presiding over the case previously ruled she should stay. If this new request is granted, oral arguments could take place in October. The Port of Baltimore Channel could fully reopen in the next few days. Unified Command originally targeted this past weekend to reopen the 700-foot wide channel, but that did not happen. Yesterday, the Army Corps of Engineers said salvage operators believe they have now fully cleared the area. Authorities are now inspecting the water with sonar and other tools to ensure there's no hazard to navigation. The U.S. military has resumed airdrops of aid into Gaza. It comes after they said they were suspended due to Israeli operations in the northern area. U.S. Central Command said a plane dropped more than 10 metric tons of meals yesterday. It said to date the U.S. has airdropped more than 1,050 metric tons of humanitarian assistance. The airdrop took place a day after maritime aid and deliveries to Gaza resumed after the U.S.-built pier was repaired from damage in heavy seas. The United Nations Security Council has approved a resolution for a permanent ceasefire and the release of hostages in Gaza. 14 member nations voted in favor, with none against and 1 abstention by Russia in today's vote. The proposal put forward by the United States calls for a, quote, permanent end to hostilities between Israel and Hamas. The plan also calls for the return of hostages' remains and the exchange of Palestinian prisoners. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, credit card rates are near record highs, yet a third of Americans say they are willing to go into debt to pay for summer travel. Ways you can avoid putting all the costs on your credit card.
And a river, lake, pool, what have you will be needed this weekend as temperatures will be in the 90s. We'll plot everything out in the First Alert forecast in a few minutes. Stay with us.